Being a second-generation player in the NFL has to have its ups and downs. Sure, a lot of things are handed to you on a silver platter, but you also are riddled with expectations set to you because of your father. Sometimes it works out for the better, and other times it doesn't. There are so many NFL father and son combos that we made a second video, so stick around as we compare more NFL stars to their dads. Howie Long and Chris and Kyle. When your dad was named to 8 Pro Bowls, helped the Raiders win the Super Bowl in 1984, and is a Hall of Famer, how could you ever live up to that? Howie Long remains one of the Raiders' best stars when the defensive end played for them back in the 80s for a 13-season career. Both his sons, Chris and Kyle, had solid careers of their own, but could they ever really compare to their Hall of Famer dad? Well, they're pretty close, we'll give them that. Chris was drafted by the Rams in 2008 as the second overall pick. He's won a Super Bowl with 2 different teams, the 2016 Patriots and the 2017 Eagles. His dad even broadcasted his 2016 game with Fox Sports and got to interview him on the field right after. Howie wrote in a blog post, "Seeing Chris win Super Bowl 51 far exceeded the enjoyment of winning my own ring," which we think is super adorable. In 2011, Chris recorded a career-high 13 sacks and earned NFL Alumni Lineman of the Year honors. He retired in 2019 with 70 career sacks and 15 forced fumbles over 11 seasons while playing in 162 of 176 possible games, where he started in 103 of them. Pretty impressive. Howie's other son Kyle can't say he won a Super Bowl like his dad and brother, but the 20th overall pick in 2013 has been named to 3 Pro Bowls and was voted in the top 100 greatest Bears of all time. He retired earlier this year after his solid but quiet career as a guard for the Bears. Their dad Howie still has his career in acting and broadcasting, so he definitely takes the win on this one, if this was a competition, which it is. Bob Griese and Brian. There's a real shame in only being known as a famous person's son, and despite his efforts, that's how it is for Brian. His dad Bob Griese was drafted as the 4th overall pick in 1967 by the Dolphins. Bob led them to 3 consecutive Super Bowls, aka their only Super Bowls, where they won 2. The 8-time Pro Bowler is one of the best players and quarterbacks in Dolphins history. He went 92, 56, and 3 in 14 NFL seasons and completed 56.2% of his passes for 25,092 yards, 192 touchdowns, and 172 interceptions. The Dolphins retired as number 12 in 1985, and in 1990 he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. After his retirement, Bob went into broadcasting, where he cemented a solid career working for NBC and ABC until he retired in 2011. His son Brian followed in his famous father's footsteps in both avenues, but it didn't work out as well for him as it did his dad. A 3rd-round pick of the Broncos in the 1998 NFL Draft, he followed them to their Super Bowl win that year, though he spent most of the season on the sidelines. In 2003, he signed with the Dolphins, which was a huge deal as that was his father's team, but he was traded to the Buccaneers less than a year later. He was released in 2009 after a mediocre career and subsequently retired, turning to a career in broadcasting like his dad. They've even worked together, but if that awkward handshake is anything to go by, it wasn't as great as they thought it would be. It's unfortunate that Brian is mostly known as Bob Griese's son, but hey, how can he live up to a living legend? Jerry Rice and Jerry Jr. Jerry Rice Jr. is the only son of Hall of Fame wide receiver and all-around legend Jerry Rice. Imagine having the best wide receiver in NFL history as your dad, and then also add the fact that you want to play the same position and you share the same name. Well, things didn't really work out for the younger Jerry. He signed with the Washington football team in 2014, but was waived by them in May 2015. After that, he went to the CFL, only to be released by the Montreal Alouettes a year later. Talk about a career not even worth comparing to his father, who won 3 Super Bowls, was named to 13 Pro Bowls, and is the 6-time NFL receiving touchdown leader. Archie Manning and Peyton and Eli. Archie Manning was the 2nd overall pick in the 1971 NFL Draft, where he played for the Saints, the Houston Oilers, and the Vikings as QB until his retirement in 1984. Throughout his 13-season career, he never even participated in a playoff game and was ultimately stuck on teams that were mediocre. Archie was selected to the Pro Bowl in 1978 and 1979 and ended his career having completed 2,011 of 3,642 passes for 23,911 yards and 125 touchdowns with 173 interceptions, and also rushing for 2,197 yards and 18 touchdowns. He had 3 sons, who all had completely different careers. His first son, Cooper, born in 1974, had a fantastic college football career as a wide receiver who put up record-breaking school records at Newman and was the first 1,000-yard receiver there until Odell Beckham Jr. came along. Cooper was considered a top prospect for the University of Mississippi until he began feeling numbness in his fingers and toes. After being admitted to the hospital at age 18, he was diagnosed with spinal stenosis, ultimately ending his playing career. The second son, Peyton, well, if you don't know, that's awkward. Peyton retired with 71,940 career passing yards, 539 touchdowns, a 65.3 completion percentage, and 5 MVP wins. Arguably the greatest quarterback, or maybe even the greatest player, to ever make his way into the NFL. Archie Manning's youngest son, Eli, who retired at the beginning of 2020, managed to have a better career than his dad, but not as great as Peyton's, obviously. He played his entire 16-year career with the New York Giants, winning 2 Super Bowls, and he holds Giants franchise records for most passing yards, touchdown passes, and completed passes in a career. Joe Montana and Nate. Nate Montana is the son of Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Montana, who was best known for being a member of the San Francisco 49ers from 1979 to 1992, back when the 49ers were actually decent and won a total of 5 Super Bowl championships, 4 of which featured Joe. Joe's nicknames were Joe Cool and Comeback Kid, so those speak for themselves, really. Joe holds postseason records for most games with a passer rating over 100 with 12, and is second in career postseason touchdown passes with 45, and passing yards with 5,772. So when his son Nate came along, there were definitely some big shoes to fill. Despite playing high school and college football, Nate went undrafted in the 2013 NFL Draft and never signed with an NFL team after that. Ouch. Clay Matthews and Casey and Clay III. Famed NFL linebacker Clay Matthews Jr., who was drafted in the first round by the Cleveland Browns and played in 278 games over 19 NFL seasons, had 2 sons, Casey and Clay III, who were both on the NFL roster. Clay played for the Packers after being drafted in the 2009 season and won a Super Bowl with them the following season. He was also named to 6 Pro Bowls, 2 more than his dad's 4. His dad also never won a Super Bowl, so... Clay III signed a 2-year contract with the Rams in 2019, only to be released in the 2020 offseason. In his rookie year, Clay recorded 10 sacks while playing outside linebacker. His younger brother Casey was drafted in 2011 by the Eagles in the 4th round and had a shorter career as a linebacker until 2015, where he was then signed by the Vikings. He sustained a hip injury that year that required surgery and was then placed on injured reserve. Randy Moss and Thad. I'm just tired of the comparisons. You know, everybody keeps mentioning my father, mentioning his last name, but just the identity that I want to make is my own identity. I look forward to getting out there and making a name for myself, you know, and just working for everything. That's what Thad, son of Randy Moss, said before signing with the Washington football team as an undrafted free agent earlier this year. Going undrafted is new for the Moss family, as Randy was the 21st overall pick in the 1998 draft. I went ahead and just told him, like, look, this is no different from what I've had to do my whole life. The last name Moss? People have always had their eyes on me and always doubted me and always wanted to see what I can do and always had expectations. This is no different, Thad said regarding going undrafted. Living in his father's shadow has made Thad mentally stronger, as he knows he has to really earn respect at the professional level, since a lot of people will have their eye on him. A lot of people think that I was handed a lot of things or that I was given a lot of things, but that's actually the opposite, Thad said. As a freshman at NC State, he caught 6 passes for 49 yards and a touchdown. He transferred to LSU, where he missed the entire 2017 season due to NCAA transfer rules. He also missed the entire 2018 season due to a foot injury, and so was granted a medical redshirt. As a redshirt junior, Moss finished the season with 47 receptions for 570 receiving yards, both school records for tight ends, and 4 touchdowns. He has yet to play professionally in the NFL, but how can he ever compare to Randy Moss? Randy played 14 seasons in the league at wide receiver. He became the second player to eclipse 1,000 yards receiving 10 times, and he hauled in 982 career catches for 15,292 yards and 156 touchdowns. He earned All-Pro honors 4 times and was selected to 6 Pro Bowls throughout his career. Randy is now an analyst for ESPN. Well, there you have it. There were way more sons of NFL greats in the 2020 draft, so this season will certainly be an interesting one. Will Antoine Winfield Jr., Thad Moss, Joe Burrow, Jalen Reagor, and Michael Pittman Jr., plus countless others compare to their fathers? Only time will tell. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos.